All right, we are on day 5 of our Empowered Birth Workshop, Write Your Empowered Birth Plan. And I'm just so happy that you have stuck out this long, okay? Seriously, so many moms, they start these trainings, they go through the first few days, they don't finish their homework, they drop off, they forget, and they don't get the results that they really want. And then they wonder why things don't work. And the fact is that you really need to be able to take these steps because it's great to have information. Information is wonderful. However, if you're not actually taking action, nothing's going to change. The universe rewards action. Life rewards action. Everything is about action. And this is why when you're creating your birth plan, you do not want to follow the typical templates. I talked about that on day 1. You do not want to say no, 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 all through your birth plan. I talked about that on day 2. You do not want to do the typical thing of having a really, really long list of everything you don't want and want on your birth plan. I talked about that in day 3. And the last thing you want to do is wait until the last few months of pregnancy to create your birth plan. I talked about that yesterday. I talked about how if you're already 30 weeks, you need to be sending me your homework. If you're past that, we really need to talk. And if you are 26 weeks and under, then you're still in a perfect time frame to change things around. Okay? So no matter where you are, if you send me your homework, I can help you. If you are further along in your pregnancy than 26 weeks, we really need to talk. I cannot stress this enough. You could be falling into several natural birth traps. These are the things that you wouldn't think are a trap because they are so mainstream. They're so laced into our birth culture. Your care provider probably just thinks it's routine and standard of care, but it is not going to allow you to get a birth as natural as possible. It's going to possibly sabotage your birth plan. It's going to make you crumble under the pressure. You're going to have to fight. You're going to have to beg. It's going to be traumatic for you. It's going to be frustrating. It's going to stress you out. When you're stressed out, your body won't go into labor. So then your care provider will say you're not showing signs of labor progress, and then they will push you into an induction. And they'll say it's because your body doesn't dilate. You don't go into labor on your own. The truth is that fear is holding you back. Your body is saying, hey, it's not safe to birth right now. And so now you've got a problem. Or maybe you're just a 42-week mama, which means that your baby is naturally going to gestate longer than someone who is set to deliver at 40 weeks. There are some moms that are just ready to go. They're ready to pop right at 38 weeks. That's normal for them. There's other moms that go to 43 weeks and their babies are 6 pounds. And if they hadn't waited, if they just induced, their baby would have been premature. Their baby wouldn't have been able to breastfeed. This is why a lot of problems happen with breastfeeding. This is why you end up with a harder postpartum recovery. This is why you end up with a C-section. This is why you end up with an induction. It's all because if you're creating your birth plan at the end of pregnancy, you don't have your roadmap. So I talked about that yesterday, about how you need to make sure that you're addressing your fears so that anything that comes up, you have a backup plan around it. I also talked about the education that you're going to want to get, because when you have your roadmap, then you know not to just go and grab a whole bunch of books. You know which books to pick on the shelf. You know that if you're going for a home birth, you're not going to pick a whole bunch of hospital books. You're not going to pick a whole bunch of books geared for people that are having a medicalized birth. You're going to pick the stuff that's going to help you have the home birth. If you have gestational diabetes, you're going to want to get some additional education on how to manage your gestational diabetes. You may want to get some more nutrition information. If you have chronic high blood pressure, you're going to want to manage that. If you are going for a VBAC, you may want to get some information on the statistics. So when your care provider says, oh yeah, well, you know, your risk of uterine rupture is this, you know what the actual numbers are. They can't pull the wool over your eyes, which again means that you are in the driver's seat. Today, we're going to do the other two pillars of empowered birth, because this is the system. This is the entire empowered birth system. You create your birth plan first, you aim for physiological birth, and then you also run it through this overall system, the right mindset, the right education, the right environment. And today we're going to learn about the right facilitators and the right support. Okay? So the right facilitators as I said, it's your care provider and hiring your doula. So many moms, they go in and they're like, how do I find the right care provider? What questions do I need to ask? What questions do I need to ask in hiring a doula? Do I even need a doula? Well, first of all, I'm a little biased because I am a doula, but I also recognize, because as a first-time mom, I thought I didn't need a doula. And then I actually got a doula and I understood that doulas are really important because not only do they help you, they also help your partner, because your partner is scared too. And men tend to freak out. If you've got a male partner, men tend to freak out during childbirth. They don't know what to do. If they don't know their role, if they don't know what's normal, they're automatically going to defer to the doctor. I'll talk about that soon. But first, what you need to know is about your care provider. I talked about this a little bit throughout the workshop. I said that you do not want to hand your birth plan off to your care provider for them to sign off on it. That's because they don't need to sign off on your birth plan. I know it's revolutionary, right? All the childbirth books are like, bring your birth plan to your care provider. And then as the expert, they will tell you what is actually going to work and what's not, and what your options are, and make sure that you're going through the lens of your care provider and your options. No, not if you want an empowered birth. Not if you want a birth where you are in the driver's seat. Not if you want a birth as natural as possible. If you want a birth as natural as possible, this advice will not work. It will set you up to fail. It will set you up for trauma. It will set you up for disappointment. It will set you up for regret. It will set you up for a C-section. It will set you up for an induction. It will set you up for stress at the end of your pregnancy. It will stress you out, and it will make you wish that you had just not talked to that care provider at all about your birth plan and just done it your way. I should have stayed home. I shouldn't have gone to the hospital at all. You know, I'd rather just birth my baby alone than go through what I did again. Like, that was basically how I felt once I realized what was really going on in the system. I was so devastated because I thought I had done everything right. I'd read all the books. I'd taken all the classes. I hired a midwife. I was planning a home birth. I had a doula. Why did I end up getting pushed into the hospital? Why did they keep making me go for all these stupid tests that I didn't actually need? Why is it that they kept telling me my baby was too small, only for him to come out 8 pounds when he was born? Why did I crumble under the pressure? And I finally figured out what it was, is I didn't have my map figured out. I didn't know everything I needed to know. I didn't know that the midwife practice that I was with was a high-risk practice with OBs running it. And therefore, the midwives didn't actually have control in that practice. I didn't know that the medical system also did not believe in physiological birth, and that the hospital that I had as backup in case I had to do a home birth transfer, those OBs did not understand physiological birth. They wouldn't have known it if it smacked them in the face. And the fact is that I had no idea of any of this. This is why, as a doula and childbirth educator, I got to see both sides. I got to see the side as a mom who had a lot of education behind her, who was very, very smart, very, very resourceful. And I still got tricked. And I almost got tricked the second time too. This almost happened again with my second birth because I didn't have everything figured out right away. I didn't have my roadmap. I let my fears control me at certain points. Now, that's because I didn't have the right support, first of all. My partner was actually really stressing me out, and that was causing a lot of my problems. I'll get into that another time. But the fact is, if you want to know more about that, all you have to do is go onto any of my social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. It's all at Empowering Moms Birth. You can go to my website, empoweringmomsbirth.com. You can always reach out to me. I'm happy to share this information. I have so many resources to give you. And if you reach out, if you do your homework and you're like, you know, I have some questions, send it to me, especially if you're 30 weeks. If you're 30 weeks and you're already taking this training, you need to make sure that you send me your homework, because if I don't get it and you try to send it to me at 38 weeks, 39 weeks, it's likely going to be too late. I won't be able to get you out of those traps as quickly as if you're 30 weeks or under and you're sending me your homework. With Rebecca, she sent me her birth plan and she was 25 weeks at the time that she went through our Empowered Birth Workshop back in 2021. And I took one look at it and like, okay, you're wanting a VBAC. You want it as natural as possible. But the things that you're putting on your plan are not going to get you that. So I asked her, it's like, do you actually want any of these things? She's like, no. I'm like, okay. Well, she already had her care provider. She couldn't really switch. She couldn't get a midwife. We couldn't find a midwife to support her. So she just stayed with her care provider, because that's the other thing is you can stay with the care provider you have now if you already have one. And then you can continue to search for someone better. And if you can't find them, you've got your backup. And then you can also learn tools on how to communicate with your current care provider, or maybe you just have a plan so that they can't interfere too much when it comes to your birth. But let's pretend for a minute. Let's pretend that you are not pregnant yet. And let's pretend for a minute that you've got your roadmap. And let's pretend now that you are now trying to conceive, and then you've just peed on the stick and you've gotten your positive pregnancy test. I'm going to give you the ideal version of how this works, okay? So you take your birth plan that you have all written out. You know exactly what you want, right? You know the environment that you need to birth in. Maybe that's a hospital, maybe it's home, but you know the exact hospital that you want to go to. You know you don't want to go to that one that has a C-section rate. You know you want to go to the one that is more likely to help you. To do that, you can also ask local doulas, hey, what's the rates and everything of this hospital? Because sometimes hospital birth, like cesarean rates and induction rates, they won't advertise them. They'll give you the runaround for weeks when you're trying to get that information. I myself, as a birth advocate, when I was trying to get the local rates for our hospital for C-sections, even though they were on a website, it took us 3 weeks for me and my friend Christine, who was my rally coordinator at the time, to actually get them to give us the website information. Like it was literally online, but they would not give us that information, even though legally we were allowed to have it. As like the fact that we were citizens, we deserved to know the C-section rates, but they wouldn't tell us. This is the same thing as doulas. We get the runaround a lot trying to get this information because they don't want to disclose it. And there's even the whole thing with the Freedom of Information Act, where a lot of the bureaucracy, they're like, well, we don't think this is a public health issue, so we don't feel we need to actually collect or disclose this information. When it comes to OB rates of cesarean, even harder to get. I could tell you stories. Seriously, I could tell you stories. In the 10 years that I've been doing this, I've seen behind the curtain, I've seen exactly the mess that is in our maternity care. And that's why I can tell you right now where you do want to go to get information and where you don't want to try to go. But the thing is that C-section rates don't tell the whole story. You also need to know the culture of the birth environment that you're in. You need to know how the nurses are, how the doctors are. You need to know how the midwives are, because even if you have a care provider, if there's others in that same environment that may be called in, if your care provider is not able to come in, you need to know what you're walking into. This is why I say, if you're going to go for physiological birth, the ideal is to have a home birth and call your midwife in when you feel you need them, which is probably the last minute if you want somebody to catch, or if you just want somebody to deal with the placenta after to make sure that you don't bleed out. And it's like, I just want to have somebody there who knows what they're doing in case there is an issue, or if I tear, so I can have it sutured instead of just waiting for it myself, or to check on my baby after birth, or to weigh my baby. I just want that little bit of care, or somebody to clean up so I don't have to clean up the home birth stuff, and neither does my husband. Like that's the idea of bringing someone in. That's what I wanted. I really just wanted somebody there to deal with the placenta and to make sure that everything was okay with my baby. So that's why I hired a midwife. Rebecca couldn't even get a midwife, but she had her doctor, she had her backup. So we just kept our doctor. We just kept them. And Rebecca knew she was having an unassisted home birth. And if something went wrong at any point, or she decided she changed her mind, she knew she could get to the hospital within 5 minutes. So how do you do that? Well, you take your birth plan to your care provider at the beginning of your pregnancy. In your interview, you say, I would like this. How are you going to support me in that? Simple as that. That allows you to see if they're going to support you or not. The other one is, I plan to decline this insert thing that pretty much is expected in pregnancy, but you don't feel like doing. Like for me, it was blood tests. I decided I didn't want any blood tests with my second baby, so I didn't have them. Now, the first 2 midwife practices I was at, they were really uncomfortable with that. The second one was like, yeah, okay, that's fine. I mean, you'll do it if you notice that there's something going on. It's like, oh yeah, I mean, if there's an actual issue that comes up, of course, but I have no intentions of doing anything until I feel that there's a problem. Problem solved. There was no issues. I never had a single blood test with my second pregnancy. I never had to do that. So here's why this works. Because when you have your roadmap and you can bring in your birth plan at the beginning of your pregnancy, you can also do what Jenny did. You can extend your appointments with your care provider because you're hiring the care provider who's willing to support you in the kind of unique birth you want. So you can actually schedule extra time. And then you go over your birth plan through every single appointment. You're talking about your birth plan. You're not just going in there to make sure your baby's okay. Because the truth is that you can do that on your own. Just by tapping into your intuition. Is my baby okay? Do I feel good? Yep, I feel good. My baby's moving. I'm fine. But the medical system has made you believe that you can't birth, you can't even grow a healthy baby without them. That's the trick here. This is why with prenatal appointments, you need to be the one controlling it. When moms say, I'm pregnant, what do I expect at my first appointment? I'm like, oh, forget that. No, drop that right now. Not the what do I expect. They're going to expect certain things, but you don't have to do any of it. You can just come in, keep your clothes on, say to them, sitting in the chair, this is what I want. This is what I'm committed to. I'm not willing to get weighed or anything right now. This is just an interview to see if you're a good fit. That's it. That's all you do. And then after that appointment, because again, you're under 10 weeks. Okay. You're not even in your second trimester yet when you're doing these interviews, unless you've already recognized that your care provider is no good and you need to go out and find somebody else. Well, you already have a care provider that is already monitoring your pregnancy, right? So as you're wanting to switch, you just go in for an interview to see if this other practice might be better. And again, it's simple. You take in your birth plan, you say, this is what I want. This is what I'm committed to. How are you going to support me in that? If they say, oh, well, we don't do that. We don't do that. No, thank you for your time. I'll make a decision later. I'll give you a call. I'll let you know. You don't have to schedule another appointment. You don't have to do it. If you don't like it, you don't have to schedule another appointment. You just walk out. It's like a bad date. You go out on a bad date. You're like, oh, thanks. Yeah. All right, bye. And then you just never call them again. And when they try to call you back and say, hey, I had a good time, I kind of want to go out again, it's like, oh, well, thank you for thinking of me, but I really don't, I don't see it working out, but thank you. Or, oh, I have other things that I'm going on, and you just keep doing that. Or you don't even answer if you want. But the fact is that you don't actually have any obligation to these care providers. They're providing a service. The same thing with your doula, okay? Your doula needs to be able to serve you in the way you want. So when people are like, oh, well, you have to ask her birth philosophy and how many births she's attended and like so many other questions. First of all, it doesn't matter if she's attended 10 births or if she's only attended one, or if this is the first one she's attended. That doesn't matter. What matters is, do you feel comfortable with her? And is she also on board? Does she believe in the kind of birth you want, or is she too freaked out? because there are some doulas out there who are too freaked out to even touch unassisted birth. Be like, oh no, I can't do that. And then there's others who are like, oh, you want to do unassisted? Oh yeah, I love unassisted. There's some doulas that they do Reiki, they do massage, they maybe have some ideas about essential oils. Maybe they get really, really fired up if their clients also want to do spinning babies. It's like, oh yeah, I have spinning babies training. I've done all of the trainings and I'm certified in this. I'm so excited and I'd love to do this. But you know what? Maybe that's not what you want. Maybe you just want somebody to come in and fill the pool for you and tidy up and maybe wrangle your kiddos so that you can just be doing your thing. Maybe you'd like her to just make you some meals. Maybe you'd like her to just be your postpartum doula instead of your regular doula. You don't want somebody at your birth, but you would like somebody to come in after birth and help out. Maybe you want somebody who also knows how to take pictures. And you don't really want a photographer there, but you do want somebody who can take pictures and also serve you. So again, I have so many doula friends and they're all different. They all do different things. They all have things that they're experts in and they have things that they don't do. So you might want somebody to bring you a hot meal, but if they don't cook, well, that's not going to work, right? If you want somebody who's also going to be able to clean up for you and take care of things or work with your partner to keep you sane and have your partner do most of the work to support you, but your doula is more like the hands-on type and doesn't really like working with partners, that's not going to work for you. So again, when you're going through your system of your birth plan, you're really asking the questions, what do I want in a doula? What am I hiring the doula for? If you're hiring your doula to stand at the door so that you can just birth your baby unassisted in the hospital, then you need to have a doula who's very comfortable standing at the door and telling the nurse, you may not pass. This is what Jenny did. The first time she needed somebody, she wanted someone with maternal energy who was like older, and she hired one of our other friends, and she's amazing. And we love her to pieces, but she was not the right doula for Jenny the second time. Jenny wanted someone who was going to stand at the door with a smile and say, sorry, no entry. Go call the doctor. The baby's coming. Are you going to get placenta? Oh, no? Okay, well, I'm going to catch it then. Like, this is the kind of energy that our friend had, our other friend that Jenny hired, because I've got so many. I mean, I have doulas from all over the world that I connect with, and they all offer different services. So that's why I'm saying, if you're going to use your birth plan as a roadmap, that also helps you get the right doula. Because if you don't get the right doula, you're going to be like, I don't understand. I hired a doula and it wasn't really that great. Well, that's because you didn't hire the right one, because doulas are freaking awesome. And I'm not just saying that as myself being a doula. I'm saying that because I have had doulas, and all my best friends, like, they're either coaches or doulas. And the thing that they both have in common is they hold space for you and they allow you to do it yourself so that you can recognize your power. The mark of a good coach or a good doula is when their client is able to just be themselves and do it themselves and have that confidence with that safety and support and be like, yeah, you've got me and I've got this. That's the mark of a good coach or doula. If they're not doing that, it's not a good fit. Finally, the last one, your partner, the right support. If you've got this birth plan, this vision of what you want, first of all, if you're going into mom groups that don't have that energy and you're saying, I'm going to have an unassisted birth at home and I'm really excited about it, and you're in a mom group that everybody is freaking out and telling you how dangerous that is, it's the wrong environment. Okay? So that's where I'm getting this from. And say, I'm telling you right now, if you're going into these mom groups that don't support natural birth, that say natural birth is painful and traumatic and horrible, you need to get out of them or mute them, something, because it's not serving you. Okay? So the last part about your roadmap, now that you have your roadmap, you take that ideal birth plan to your partner and you say, babe, this is our birth. This is what we're working towards. And then you go through the lens of their fears and you're working through that and you're addressing that. So this is again why you want your partner on board, because when your partner is on board, they can then be the protector. They're not stuck in their fear. They know you've got this. You know the roadmap. You know where you're going. And they know their role is to protect you and to stand by you. So that if you're going to dinner and you're at your mother-in-law's house and your mother-in-law has suddenly heard through the grapevine that you want a home birth or you want a VBAC, and she's like, I don't understand why you want to do that. Or you have that sister-in-law who's like, I don't understand why you would want to go through all that pain of a natural birth. Why don't you just get an epidural? Like, seriously, I tried natural birth. It's horrible. And I was begging for that epidural by 4 centimeters. You're not going to be able to do it. Your partner can come in and say, hey, I appreciate your concern, but this isn't up for discussion. I would appreciate it if you would stop talking about this. If you don't, we're going to have to leave because I will not have you upsetting my wife. And then how are you going to feel knowing that your partner has stood up to his sister and his mother on your behalf? Or maybe it's not your mother-in-law. Maybe it's your own family. Maybe your mother-in-law and your sister-in-law are great, but maybe it's your aunt or it's your mom or it's your sister, and they are just saying these things to you, and you are coming home in tears after a visit with your mother, and you're like just falling apart. And you're like, my mom does not get it at all. I am so frustrated right now. And your partner can look at you and go, yeah, I know, babe. I got you. I hear you. No, she's totally out of line to do that. And yeah, I get where she's coming from, but at the same time, no, we're going to do this. I've got your back. You know, I've got your back. I'm not afraid. We can do this. And by the way, if you want me to say something to your mother, I'll stand up to your mother for you. You'll say, oh no, honey, it's okay. You don't have to stand up to my mother, but oh my gosh, you are so sexy right now. I just love you so much. You're the best. That's going to give you a much closer relationship with your partner. And then on Labor Day, it's going to be like, oh, this is happening. All right. Okay. So what do we need to do? Okay. I need to fill the pool and I need to do this and I need to get this ready. And oh yeah, it is go time. I am on. I am now in my element. I get to do things. I have been spending a lot of time holding space, which is not something that I'm really familiar with, but now I get to shine. Now I get to do things. That is what your partner's energy is, especially if they're masculine. If they're male, if they have that heavy masculine energy or they are male, then they are looking for the things they get to do. So you, with your plan, you know the things that they need to do. So you can say, hey, we're having a home birth and we need to get the pool. And before we actually have the home birth, we need to do a test run to make sure that this pool is not going to deflate on the day that we go into labor. So when I go into labor, I want to make sure that that pool is ready. So let's do a test run so that you know how to fill it up, you know how to empty it, and make sure that there's no holes. This is one thing that my partner was actually really good at, my ex, is that we blew up that pool. He then sprayed it down. I'm giving you an actual tip here. I'm giving you an actual tip for water birth. You want a water birth? Listen up, okay? You have your inflatable pool, but you want to make sure that there's no holes, right? No tiny little punctures that are going to make your pool deflate. Here's how you do it. You fill the squirt bottle full of water and soap. And you spray that all over the pool before you put in the liner. And anywhere where there is a little bubble that keeps blowing, like the men can see this. Men are really good at seeing this. You see where the little holes are. It's like, oh, there's something I have to patch first. Okay. There were no holes in our pool, thankfully. But when you rent a pool because you might not be having more than 2 kids, so it doesn't make sense to buy one. Some people do buy one, especially if they're planning to have lots and lots of babies. But if you're only renting this pool, you want to make sure that it's not going to deflate. So that is how you make sure that it's not going to deflate. Your partner can be doing that. They can also do a test run of the water to see, okay, I don't need to put the liner in yet, but I do need to have the water to test this pool beforehand. So then they can connect the hose, and then they can connect the attachment, and they can figure it out, and they can figure out how to siphon the water out again. There's a way of doing that. They could probably check it out on YouTube. It's probably just reversing suction. My ex is like a handyman, so he was able to do all this stuff. That's one of his redeeming qualities. I mean, he has quite a few, but like it's just like, that's the thing. You find your partner's strengths, you apply it to your plan, see what would they be good at. It makes them feel useful, makes them feel wanted, and then they can go out and shine. Now, there is so much more to this empowered birth system. I cannot possibly teach it all in this. This is just on creating your birth plan. This is the overall system, but there's so much. You can probably tell that I know a lot about this. I've done a lot of this. And I know a lot about natural birth too, and I know about spotting the natural birth trap. I really would like you to come to our masterclass, The Natural Birth Blueprint. If you already signed up for this workshop, you're already in. You already have a ticket. You just have to go claim it. So go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/register, and that will take you to the registration page to register for this masterclass if you are not already in. I'm going to be teaching this masterclass. You're going to learn all the mistakes you're making in natural birth planning. You're going to learn more about why birth doesn't work. You're going to learn more about why you need to be following this 5-pillar system. And then I'm also going to tell you something else as well of how Jenny did this. I'm going to share the stories of Jenny and Rebecca and Lisa. You'll actually get to hear the empowered birth stories during this masterclass. I'll share a little bit more on my story. And this is how you get the birth you want without having to fight, beg, or compromise. So we're finished the challenge. I have one more bonus class for you. If you want it, again, you need to go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/register. And there will be a replay available. But if you want to come live, I really, really suggest you do. Bring your notebook with you. Bring any questions you have. Bring your birth plan with you. We can workshop it together. I can look at it. I can tell you what you need. You can ask any questions you want of me, and we can get this done. Because I'm committed to you having an empowered birth. I'm committed to you having that completely natural birth, as natural as possible. After Jenny and Lisa and Rebecca were able to go through this system over the last few years with me testing it, and what I've helped moms do in the past before I actually turn this into a coaching practice, I've just seen these amazing results. Like, you can get the birth you want even if you have gestational diabetes or regular diabetes. There's a mom who recently had a home birth with gestational diabetes, and there was a mom who had a home birth with regular diabetes. The fact is that you can have your birth any way you want, even if you're high risk, even if you're older, even if you're too small, even if you're too big, whatever it is, whatever the medical system has labeled you as to say natural birth is not possible, or you're less likely to get a natural birth, or you won't be able to handle the pain. Maybe your pain tolerance is the thing you're scared of, or you're just afraid something's going to go wrong. You don't know what to expect. Come to this class. Again, all you have to do is go to empoweringmomsbirth.com/register. Thank you so much. If you're already registered, I'm so happy. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.